Hi there, Darren here, and welcome to this very quick tutorial on the National Construction Code Facade Calculator. Now, as a business and personally, I've been involved with the Facade Calculator for a long time. It goes way back to about 2010, and since the changes to NCC 2025 and the launch of effectively Victoria's adoption of the National Construction Code, we decided that we'd push out a free one to the market. So the reason we're pushing it out is because who cares? It's a fairly simple calculation. A lot of people are going to be vibe coding them or creating them in Excel spreadsheets. So why not push out something that is a little bit more robust, a little bit more tested? The code that we've pushed out is effectively leveraging our existing code and then updating it. So it's free for you to jump into. Go ahead and do that. But here is, let's say, 3 minutes on how to use the tool. Okay, so here we are in the facade calculator itself. So you've got access to this via our documentation. I will leave the link below. And you can see up the top here, we've got some decisions to make. We're going to decide on the climate zone, 1 to 8. It's all there for you to select. Let's choose climate zone 6, Melbourne. You've got some grouping of building classes. You've got the 5 to 9s, and then you've got the so-called daytime nighttime buildings being 3, 9C and 9A ward areas. I'm going to leave it commercial. Doesn't matter which one it is. And then we've got some decision makings on the facade. So this is called the facade calculator because it's mainly focused on the procurement of facades. And you can then address the total system U value, the total glazing, solar heat gain coefficient, and the opaque wall element, total R value, whether a spandrel, whether a standard wall. Let's go ahead and make up some values. So I'm going to push this all the way down to 0.7 because that's probably a good performing spandrel. I'm going to leave the total glazing solar heat gain coefficient at around 0.3. Leaving it open for procurement opportunities. Now on the system U value side of things, I'm going to push down to about 2.6, and that's the best I can hope for in a commercial building in Melbourne. We've got a default 25% window to wall ratio. Should you want to move that, you can move that. And you'll see us jump in and out of a compliance strategy. It happens to be that 31% just meets the requirements for the U value and the method 2. So we are okay in this particular regard. So we're over the limits there on the M1, M2, we're not over the limits there. That's the method 1 versus the method 2. You can see both should you wish to. So that's not an awesome outcome for designers because effectively we're not far from pushing our limits from a procurement strategy. Let's be a little bit more adventurous. Let's pull that total system U value down to 2.4. And this is upper end market now. We're going to jump into a 0.26 for the solar heat gain coefficient, which means a triple silver, low E, double glazed product there. And let's build a wall behind that spandrel to improve that to get a better total R value out. There you go, 1.6. We could probably push that up to 1.8, maybe more. That means that we can then get a bit of a buffer here between this red dotted line and these green bars. And then we're going to push out that window to wall ratio a little bit higher. So effectively we're just complying there under the method 2 there. So I'm going to comply there, just there. What is it? Let's say that's 35%. Let's say the east, oh, it's 35%. Let's go back. Let's unlock, let's say the east. And let's say the west slightly less. That would do. Okay. Done. So that gives us a compliance strategy there. And then we might be able to pull those larger facade areas up a little bit more. Let's push them at 45% maybe. So that's on the north and that's on the south. And there you go, we're in a happier territory, and that might allow us to comply. Should you want to ever see any details, and I'll mention it here now, details and workings are all here. Should be clear for you to see. If you want to grab the code, this is just HTML and JavaScript, so you can grab that as well. It's embedded here. And then if you want to export a report, you can, and it will have effectively a summary of the information here. Now there's a couple of little tools down the bottom here. I'm sure these ideas are going to mature as they go along. So let's say you had a strategy here where you wanted to kind of snap to an M1 strategy here. And all that does is it pulls that to a compliance strategy here for 35, 38, 42 and 35%. This is effectively starting to tell you what your reference building is. You could also do that from an M2 perspective as well, and you'd get something fairly similar, I think. Now, that's all I wanted to cover here. Didn't want to go into too much detail. Oh, actually, before I go, let me cover one more thing. So, this is an important thing, actually. I should have thought to cover it earlier. Now, if we are designing and we are pushing our window to wall ratios out, and they're going to be at a more kind of commercially viable level, let's call it 55% window to wall ratio. Let's say that we have a shading strategy. We can lock our shading strategy for each and every window using that lock button there and push out the shading at the head of the window all at the same time to start to gauge exactly what expression, what projection is required to meet the requirements of the code in order to push your window to wall ratio out as much as you can from a procurement perspective, from a design perspective, etc. So this is going to be increasingly important for you to resolve and adopt, because NCC 2025 is very much chasing reducing cooling loads in buildings, and this facade calculator enables you to do that. So you could do that for the projection at the head, but you could also do it for the projections around at the side of the windows here, i.e. the fins. So these P&H, DW and W&H are all defined in the code itself. I'm not going to dive into that because that would make this video too long. And speaking of which, this is the end of the video. If you want to jump on to, create your own custom orientations, you can. You want to produce that report, you can. You can do compliance calculations with this tool, no problem at all, as the tool is fundamentally based on the work that we have done and spent the last 7 years supporting the Australian industry. This is free for you to jump onto because, hey, everyone's vibe coding or creating calculations of this stuff anyway, so we'd rather be super transparent in terms of how we think this works, so others can get a quick play for effectively how it's going to impact their projects over time. That's it. That's all she wrote. Good luck. Take care.